Part 9. The 12-Step Philosophy. Chapter 26. The Alcoholic to Alchemist 12-Step Philosophy for Optimal Living. Phase 1. Acceptance and Awareness. Step 1. Admit having developed a destructive alcohol habit as a consequence of attempting to escape the curriculum of life. Abandoning our defense systems and moving away from the belligerent denial that has kept us imprisoned is liberating. We no longer have to scheme to get the money to feed the habit. We no longer have to lie and deceive to defend the habit. We no longer have to expend vital energy on suppressing the truth. It is out in the open. What a relief. Prior to admitting to having an alcohol habit, our minds were constantly preoccupied with living a lie. Every day was Groundhog Day, the cyclic repetition of life-denying behavior. Lies, deceit, scheming, manipulation, and blame, all designed to feed a habit that was destroying us. Although we constantly reassured ourselves that things would get better, they never did. The spiral was unidirectional, downward. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Albert Einstein. On accepting step 1, we are no longer prepared to delude ourselves. We no longer subscribe to the belief that alcohol is a magical panacea for the dissolution of all problems. We recognize it for what it is: the fuel that ignites mental turbulence and leads to persecution. Alcohol kills our conscience and renders our memory inactive. Consequently, we lose control of our faculties and become unpredictable menaces. Our normal standards, morals, principles, and ethics disappear as Dr. Jekyll turns into Mr. Hyde. And off we go on a trail of destruction. On emerging from the drunken escapade, we are aghast to be told of our antics during blackout. Highly embarrassed and often guilt-ridden, we reach for the bottle to obliterate the memory, and the whole destructive cycle starts again. What a shambles! What an utter waste of life! And people exclaim that they can't give it up. By quitting alcohol, the only thing you're giving up is destruction, anguish, despair, embarrassment, guilt, and remorse. Life-denying behavior. Accepting step 1 reveals the willingness to change and a longing to live. Committed to transforming the mental and emotional debris that has warped our minds for years into psychological and spiritual nourishment, from which we will grow and flourish. We awaken the archetypal alchemist. By taking this step, we acknowledge 2 fundamental truths. Our primary problem is a refusal or inability to embrace the challenges of life. A destructive habit has been nurtured as a consequence of repeatedly using alcohol as an escape vehicle. Here, we acknowledge that abstaining from alcohol alone will not alleviate the problem. Alcohol is a symptom, not the cause. Just as weeds grow back if we don't remove the roots, so our destructive alcohol habit will return if we don't address the underlying issues that provoke escape. Relapse is a consequence of unresolved issues surfacing and disturbing our equilibrium. The subsequent mental anguish heightens to such an extent that we seek escape and, like lemmings, throw ourselves back into the abreactive abyss. Alcohol is an escape vehicle. If we remove the need to escape, the vehicle becomes obsolete. Before embarking on this journey, we didn't understand the true nature of the habit that was destroying us. But now that has changed. Step 1 sees our power return. No longer do we blame others for our dilemma. No longer do we subscribe to the belief that we have contracted some unfathomable disease or personality disorder. We place the locus of control firmly within ourselves. with complete abandon, we accept that addiction is not something that has been unwittingly thrust upon us. It is a habit. By definition, a habit is something that we have taught ourselves to do. Taught ourselves to do so expertly. In fact, that it is now second nature. Even our brain has rewired itself in support. But once we intervene and consciously break the destructive patterns that underlie our alcoholism, the supporting neural networks disband and make way for new life-enhancing ones. By consciously breaking the chain of automatic responses that disables us and replacing them with strategies that enable us, we rewire the brain in a way that gives rise to a radical new way of being. Break the chain. Rewire the brain. Step 1 declares us powerful beings who became temporarily detached from our power source. The rest of the steps are designed to reconnect us to our power source and bring about the radical shift in consciousness needed to embrace our true potential. Step 2. Having crossed the abreactive threshold, we need to abandon the idea that alcohol provided a means of escape and supplant it with the following belief. The most effective way to escape our problems is to solve them. Step 1. Put the problem into perspective, highlighting the fact that we'd taught ourselves to drink with such expertise that we habituated the process. The objective of this exercise had been to escape our problems. In the formative stages of alcoholism, our mind tricked us into believing that alcohol was the great enabler, calming our fears, instilling us with confidence, and inducing feelings of ecstasy and euphoria. With hindsight, however, we can see that this was just a seductive ploy, which hooked us and reeled us in. Alcohol doesn't improve or alleviate our problems. It simply disables our memory and renders our conscious inactive, giving rise to a whole new batch of problems. Alcohol once acted as a suppressant, a dam holding back a reservoir of unresolved issues, which presented the illusion that our problems had vanished. As our consumption escalated, however, the pressure built to such an extent that this dam cracked and our unresolved issues came bursting from the unconscious to the conscious with the might of a tsunami. Once our unresolved issues overwhelmed the suppressant effects of alcohol and forced their way into our conscious mind, alcohol ceases to offer us even temporary relief. Subsequently, all drinking bouts lead to abnormal reactions that manifest in a multitude of menacing guises. Severe mood swings, paranoia, neurosis, psychosis, guilt, remorse, nausea, violence, agitation, delusions of grandeur, depression, and so on. Step 2 warrants an acceptance of having crossed the abreactive threshold. Once the threshold has been crossed, you and alcohol become incompatible for life. To accept this with complete abandon, it is the key to your freedom. Step 3. Come to accept that the locus of the problem is a mind infected with fear, futility, guilt, and pain. The answer to which is a profound shift in consciousness. Now we have accepted that our alcohol habit does not provide an escape route from the vicissitudes of life. We need to employ a different strategy to deal with our problems. Step 3 is designed to bring our awareness to the underlying psychological mechanisms which distort our view of reality and give rise to the sobriety saboteurs. Before embarking on this journey, we tried to eradicate alcoholism by removing the symptom. But our efforts were to no avail. Removing alcohol alone is futile. Our answer lies in eradicating the cause, not the effect, the catalyst, not the symptom. To sustain sobriety and embrace our true potential, we must identify the psychological mechanisms that give rise to our destructive drinking. By identifying and processing the underlying patterns which give rise to the stinking thinking that fuels destructive drinking, we release the need to escape. Once we eradicate the need to escape, alcohol becomes redundant. Stinking thinking gives rise to destructive drinking. Change your thinking. End your drinking. The greatest obstacle to the successful implementation of Step 3 is lack of awareness. We need to accentuate our awareness to such an extent that we can discern that which is an actual problem and that which is a negative construction of the mind. Majority of our perceived problems exist in our minds only. They may masquerade as some person, place, or thing in the external world. But in actuality, this is often an elaborate decoy created by our mental filtering systems. The real problem lies within us. A recent survey conducted with my clients found that a staggering 92% of the problems attributed to abusive drinking were actually phantoms, distorted interpretations of an adversely conditioned mind. These findings reveal unequivocally that our mind is the primary problem. The amnestic effects of alcohol become so alluring because they present the illusion that we are getting out of our minds and escaping our problems. But this is simply a delusion born of desperation. Most people attempt to get out of their minds since that is where most of their problems exist. Step 3 is about getting into your mind, dissolving the catalyst that gave rise to abusive drinking, and tapping into the wellspring of inspiration that is buried beneath them. Don't blame, reframe. We exert so much energy on misguidedly trying to solve our problems by attempting to manipulate and control other people and external situations that we become depleted, frustrated, and disillusioned. When others don't conform to our whims and demands, we revert to blame and resentment. But blame is simply an argument against growth. It does nothing other than disable us. By placing the locus of control within ourselves, Step 3 is empowering. We may not always exercise control over external events, but we reign supreme over the inner kingdom of our mind. We have the power to change anything we choose in our internal dominion. And since the external world is a direct reflection of our state of mind, self-mastery holds the key to a life beyond our wildest dreams. As within, so without. Mastering the mirages of our mind. There is not one big cosmic meaning for all. There is only the meaning we each give to our life, an individual meaning, an individual plot, like an individual novel, a book for each person. Anais Nin. All problems transpire from the meaning we assign to external events. Rather than deceiving ourselves into believing that other people, places, and things are the cause of our problems, we need to examine the internal mechanisms which distort our view of reality. Firstly, we must recognize that meaning is not a product of the external world. It doesn't exist out there, it exists only within us. All problems transpire from the meaning we assign to life's events. As meaning is subjective, it does not exist in the external world. It exists only within us. Then common sense tells us that all our problems must reside within also. Anything that is intrinsic is under our sole jurisdiction. Therefore, we have the power to change it. Each of us has a unique perspective on life. For one person, an event may be considered uncomfortable, whilst for another, the very same event may be deemed pleasurable. How is this possible? As light changes appearance when passed through a colored filter, external events are colored when passed through the filter of our memory. Consequently, internal representations and external events are often highly incongruent. Our memory doesn't simply duplicate what's out there and store it away. It modifies what's out there with previous memories and stores a distortion. Let's take a simple example. John and his girlfriend Jenny ambled through the park. Jenny veered off to a nearby stream. When John looked around, she was taking delight in playing with the Labrador, which was passing by with its owner. John broke out in cold sweats. His heart started to pound rapidly, and he walked briskly in the opposite direction. John was petrified of dogs ever since being badly bitten when he was 6 years old. This example shows that external reality, the dog, was not the problem. It became a problem only when John added his negative memories to the experience. The same event had contrasting meanings for John and Jenny. For Jenny, it was pleasurable. For John, it was traumatic. This discrepancy proves that problems have a tendency to arise from the internal disposition of a person, rather than being a direct result of external events. John was not afraid of what was out there. He was afraid of what was in here, within him. Removing the dog wouldn't have alleviated the problem. Processing the original trauma held the answer. The totality of our life's experiences are internalized to form a mental filter through which all subsequent experience is processed. This is often referred to as our frame of reference. By virtue of processing the world through our frame of reference, our perception of life often becomes twisted and warped. Old wounds reopen and give rise to emotionally charged responses, which breed disharmony. Subsequently, corrosive inner dialogue unleashes the sobriety saboteurs, and we misguidedly seek sanctuary in alcohol. Negative inner dialogue transpires from a mindset that is preoccupied with the problem, instead of focusing on the solution that is always available. Example: Robert. Abandonment. Robert lived a relatively happy life until he was 8 years old. During this period, his parents started to argue and fight frequently. One day, he returned home from school to find his mother had left. He has never seen her again to this day. Today, Robert's relationship with his wife, Angela, is fraught with problems. He tends to be smothering and reluctant to let her out of his sight. 2 weeks ago, she was late home from work due to stock taking. When she failed to show at the normal time, Robert felt an inferno of fury building up inside and started to pace up and down the hallway. The corrosive inner dialogue then kicked in. She's having an affair. She doesn't care about me. When Angela finally came through the door, she was met with a barrage of abuse. Robert venomously accused her of abandoning him. Angela was astonished and frightened by the intensity of his reaction. The underlying process in this example is transference. Robert unconsciously experienced his wife as the mother who'd abandoned him many years ago. He was not disturbed by the current event, he was disturbed by his interpretation of it. John was traumatized by the meaning he assigned to the event, which was grossly distorted by negative memories. When viewing this innocuous incident through his frame of reference, it became a major problem, one that eventually threatened his marriage. Filtering systems often lead to irrational responses such as these, and put severe strain on our cherished relationships. A loved one or friend inadvertently makes a comment or performs an action that taps into our negative memory bank, and we strike out like a viper, leaving the unassuming person and often ourselves perplexed and upset. This is a prime example of acting unconsciously, being propelled by psychological mechanisms which lay beyond the conscious threshold. The underlying mechanism in these cases is also the biggest cause of relapse: resentment. Many people return to drink because of some indignation felt as a result of some grievance or other. But the object of their grievance is very often an innocent bystander who inadvertently opens up an old wound, as was the case with John's wife above. The word resentment means to refeel. When we refeel old wounds, we hurt and are temporarily knocked off balance. Our pain generally flares up in reaction to something someone says or does, and we erroneously perceive them as the cause of our problem. But the true cause of our pain lies buried deep within our psyche. The words or actions of these people are merely triggers. By making other people scapegoats, we remain ignorant and static. There is another major psychological mechanism at work here too: projection. Projection is the unconscious process whereby we project the contents of our psyche onto other people or events and distort them out of all proportion. The process is similar to watching a scary movie and becoming frightened by it. In actuality, what stands before us is a rather harmless blank screen. Fear arises only when scary images are projected onto it. Similarly, many innocuous life situations are transformed into traumas or dramas as we unassumingly superimpose our negative memories over them. As with resentment, this mechanism sees us inadvertently placing the responsibility for our problems with other people. By projecting the shadow elements of our psyche, our character defects, shortcomings, and negative memories onto others, the world is perceived as a hostile place. This delusion gives rise to victim mentality, as we believe everyone is conspiring to upset or harm us. As a consequence, we become consumed with paranoia, and poor me soon turns to pour me another. Projection and resentment are prone to present the illusion that others are responsible for the way we feel. How often do you hear yourself saying, "She made me feel like this," or "He made me feel that way"? But in reality, no one can take a feeling and put it inside of us. Only we can do that. Eric Berne, founder of transactional analysis, put it this way: no one can make us feel any way. The way we feel is determined by virtue of how we process the world. This statement reinforces the fact that feelings are generated by the meaning we assign to external events. As our self-awareness heightens, most problems are exposed as mirages of the mind evoked by distorted interpretations of external events. These psychological apparitions are commonly responsible for the manifestation of the sobriety saboteurs, fabricated experience, and artificial reasoning. Fear, F-E-A-R, underlies most instances of guilt, futility, and pain. Fear is a phantom, caused by fabricated experience and artificial reasoning. Over 90% of our perceived problems occur in the dominion of the mind only. The mind is prone to fabricate experience and support it with artificial reasoning. Take the example of Robert above. His fear of losing his wife had materialized as a result of projecting memories of his relationship with his mother onto his current relationship. Consequently, his perception had become severely distorted. The real-life event and his internal representation of it were in stark contrast. Robert's wife had simply been working late, but his mind had fabricated the experience of abandonment and supported it with artificial reasoning that it had happened before, so it would inevitably happen again. Most manifestations of the sobriety saboteurs are based on this illusory mechanism. As fear makes the wolf appear bigger, so our filtering systems create problems out of nothing. Ultimately, what this suggests is that our destructive drinking transpires as a result of running away from something that doesn't exist. A fabrication of the mind. Furthermore, as these imaginary grievances give rise to the way we feel, and most people who abuse alcohol do so in order to feel better, then it is imperative that we wake up and resume control of our mind. Remember, feelings arise from the chemical messengers that are dispersed throughout our body and change our cellular structure. And these chemical messengers are derived from our thoughts. Consequently, If our thoughts are constantly corrupted by negative memories, these subsequent feelings are going to be distressful and warrant escape. Step 3 urges us to intervene and end this facade. Thoughts, chemical messages, cellular changes to feelings. Awareness is the key that will set us free. Each time you experience a symptomatic manifestation of these mind mirages, mood swings, oversensitivity, jealousy, neediness, the need to control, and so on, stop. Put the following sequence into operation. Stall. Refrain from reacting. Think. Become aware of the underlying mechanisms that promote conflict, projection, transference, resentment. Observe. Allow any bodily sensations to arise. Don't respond. Don't judge. Simply observe. Center yourself in your higher awareness and watch as the perceived problems magically dissipate. Proceed. Carry on with your day. Every time you intervene in this way, you interrupt the brain processes that propel you to reenact old destructive patterns. Consequently, the supporting neural networks disband and you gradually resume conscious control of your life. This simple but powerful message of step 3 is: don't blame, reframe. Exercises. The following exercises are designed to heighten your awareness and encourage you to develop different views of your problems. By taking a different perspective and placing the locus of control within yourself, rather than in some other person, place, or thing, you pave the way to the next phase of the journey, invoking the shift. Meditate on the owl archetype and absorb its attributes. Owl has 360-degree vision and can see in the dark, making him an expert in surveillance. He is highly alert and quick at identifying potential threats. He sees that which others cannot, which is the true essence of wisdom. Develop owl skills and watch your life transform. Use owl energy to go deep into the dark recesses of your unconscious and identify the negative patterns which distort your view of reality. Remain forever vigilant and be prepared to break the chain of conditioned responses that promote disharmony in your life. Meditate on the hanged man archetype. Although hanging in on a compromising position, he oozes serenity. Hanging from a tree, upside down, he is suspending all action whilst taking a different perspective of the challenges that lay ahead of him. By looking at the world from a different angle, he identifies new options. When you are faced with a challenge, temporarily suspend any action while considering alternative explanations. Take different perspectives. Challenge the beliefs which underpin your negative interpretation and review your choices. Look through another frame of reference and describe what you see. In practicing this procedure, you will find that very often, the meaning you originally derived is reversed, and a problem becomes a challenge becomes an opportunity, a weakness becomes a strength, an impossibility becomes a probability. Fear becomes an opportunity to display courage. Unkindness becomes a lack of understanding. A deficit becomes your greatest asset. When you encounter an authentic problem, one that is not a distorted invention of the mind, meditate on the element of water and apply it to your situation. Allow your mind to become fluid-like and flow around the obstacles you encounter. Like water, allow your mind to adapt to whatever route proves possible. As water develops power by merging with other rivers, allow your mind to merge with other positive influences. With persistence, water can cut its way through the largest of obstacles. An extremely focused mind can do the same. As a flowing river never stagnates, futility never arises. when we flow with the infinite possibilities of the universe. Ultimately, the intention of water is to return to its source, the ocean. You too are bound to return to your source and assume your rightful heritage as co-creator of the universe. Whereas an alcoholic sees a problem, the alchemist sees an opportunity to evolve. Summary of Phase 1. Steps 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 embodies the themes of acceptance and awareness. Step 1 asserts that the catalyst of alcoholism is an inability or refusal to meet the curriculum of life. On encountering a problem, we revert to the amnestic effects of alcohol to provide escape. Step 2 reminded us that alcohol did not provide an escape route. It simply masked our problems in the short term. Continually banishing our problems to the realms of the unconscious has grave consequences. Unresolved issues amass in the unconscious until they gather enough force to break down the screen of alcohol that masks them from our conscious awareness. When this critical event occurs, we are overwhelmed by a backlog of problems which come flooding from the unconscious to the conscious disorient us. Again, we reach for the bottle, but this time it is to no avail. Having crossed the abreactive threshold, alcohol is ineffective. Adding alcohol to the maelstrom of mental mayhem that now pervades our conscious mind is akin to throwing petrol on a fire. Each time we drink, our problems flare up and we become dysfunctional, unpredictable entities. Step 3 provides education in the psychology behind our problems. In essence, most of our problems arise from distressing circumstances in the past. Negative memories are projected onto current circumstances, and they severely impede our perception of life. Believing the whole world is against us, we succumb to victim mentality. But blaming others only breeds stasis. Step 3 urges us to refrain from blame and take sole responsibility for our lives. It encourages us to be flexible and consider alternative explanations for any given problem. Alchemists transform obstacles into fuel to propel them forward. Whenever we spontaneously erupt or feel a constant irritation gnawing away at us, we need to recognize it as an opportunity to heighten our self-awareness and learn something about ourselves. See it as an opportunity to break free of rigid conditioning. Instead of misguidedly blaming the nearest person, place the locus of control back within yourself and recognize these people as much-needed triggers. Given that they have disturbed our unconscious mind in a way that has caused it to present an unconscious issue for resolution, mentally thank them. They have done us a favor. Remember, we cannot disarm an adversary we cannot see. Only when our issues become conscious can we process and release them. On mastering the skills and developing the attributes outlined above, you will have laid a firm foundation on which to build the rest of your life. The next phase, Invoking the Shift, will expand the teachings of Phase 1 and introduce a transpersonal aspect which will enable you to realize your true potential and grasp the infinite possibilities that life has to offer. Phase 2, Invoking the Shift. Steps 4 to 9. Phase 2 embodies the teachings of the parable of the Prodigal Son. The symbolism of this tale hides a deep philosophical meaning that has been passed down from generation to generation. Appearing in many cultures, the story portrays the soul's search to return to its original source. And he said, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found.' And they began to celebrate." Luke chapter 15, verse 11 to 32. This story informs us that our true home is a state of being, in which we experience unconditional love, bliss, ecstasy, wholeness, abundance, and spiritual nourishment. Our true home has no physical location. It is a state of consciousness in which we are all one. At our most primordial level, we are all part of a sacred singularity, sometimes called God or the universe. Rather than being pious, someone who is truly holy has their being grounded in the whole or the source. Only in this undivided state can true richness be found. Initially, unity consciousness is our natural state. Like the Prodigal Son, when we're connected to Source, we inherit all the riches of heaven within. Then we succumb to the hypnosis of social conditioning and misguidedly believe that true wealth is found only in other people, places, and the acquisition of things. Our pursuit of these things, however, results in disillusionment, despair, jealousy, greed, insecurity, and conflict. Our initial unified state of mind has been traded for poverty consciousness. Bereft of meaning and emotionally bankrupt, we seek refuge, and a longing to return to our true home transpires. This desire is accomplished through meditation. Being, not doing. In silence, the voice of our indwelling divinity is heard with great clarity. As well as relaying the importance of returning to Source, home for spiritual nourishment, the other profound message of this parable is forgiveness. Although we are apt to feel self-disdain, unworthiness, and disgrace for the transgressions we carried out whilst inebriated, the universe, Father, lovingly awaits our return. The universe understands that we are not bad people. We were simply blind and unaware of our errors whilst drunk. Hence, another phrase from the Bible becomes apt. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Rising above our conditioning and embracing our rightful heritage is the essence of Phase 2. Being part of the sacred singularity, we are all creators capable of the reality we truly desire. However, to do so, we have to enter an altered state of consciousness, in which we transcend the hypnosis of social conditioning and reconnect with the power of our source. Meditation, self-love, and forgiveness hold the keys. For everything we long for can be found in our true home. Phase 2 is your homecoming. Step 4. Aspire to invoke a major shift in consciousness by allowing life to unfold from the wisdom of your indwelling divinity. You are a distinct portion of the essence of God in yourself. Why, then, are you ignorant of your noble birth? Why do you not consider whence you came? Why do you not remember when you are eating, who you are, who eat? and whom you feed. You do not know that it is the divine you feed, the divine you exercise. You carry a God about with you. Epictetus. There's a facet of your being which knows the right response to every conceivable situation. Your indwelling divinity is a part of the phenomenal intelligence responsible for all creation. Omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. So why then are we ignorant of our noble birth? Why do we discard the God within in favor of a self-seeking subordinate pseudo-self? The simple answer is that life has duped us into identifying with an imposter, our ego. At birth, we enrolled into drama school and learned to play the role of Mr. or Mrs. Mortal, a reactive being programmed to conform to the strict limitations of society. We immersed ourselves in the role with such fervor that we forgot our true identity. Man has falsely identified himself with the pseudo-soul, or ego. When he transferred his sense of identity to his true being, the immortal soul, he discovered that all pain is unreal. He no longer can even imagine the state of suffering. Paramahansa Yogananda. Step 4 urges us to reacquaint ourselves with the immortal aspect of our being. By allowing life to unfold from our indwelling divinity, we can be absolutely certain of meeting every situation with confidence, understanding, forbearance, and wisdom. This step encourages us to allow our indwelling divinity to become our closest advocate, guide, and teacher. Once you reunify with the immortal essence that dwells within, you will optimize your potential in every area of your life. Daily declaration. At the beginning of every day, make the following declaration. Today, I allow every situation to unfold from the wisdom of my indwelling divinity. In doing so, I rest assured that I will meet every situation in a way that enhances my life and the lives of all those I encounter. Let this statement be emblazoned in the forefront of your mind throughout the day. This step is about trading conditioned responses for optimal living, and this declaration reinforces your intent to succeed. Whenever you encounter a challenging situation, refrain from reverting to conditioned responses and striking out. Instead, stay centered in your higher awareness and mentally affirm the following declaration. I allow this situation to unfold from the wisdom of my indwelling divinity. Now, reconsider the testing situation. Recall step 3 and evoke the hanged man archetype. Look at the situation from different perspectives and identify your options. In silence, await intuitive direction from your indwelling divinity and act accordingly. Intuition is the direction of the soul. Continually practicing this process will initiate a shift in consciousness that will propel you into a higher dimension of existence. Your life will change beyond recognition. Paradoxically, by relinquishing control to your indwelling divinity, you become master of your own destiny. Step 5. Live life consciously. This step is comprised of 3 parts: awakening, discerning, choosing. Part A. Awakening. When one realizes one is asleep, at that moment one is already half awake. P.D. Ouspensky, 1878 to 1974. There are 2 ways to live, consciously and unconsciously, awake or asleep. When we live unconsciously, we are entranced by conditioning, oblivious to the reasons why our lives aren't working. We repeat the same routines day in, day out, make the same mistakes over and over again, and react to the same situations time and time again. But we never ask questions. Why is life this way? What am I doing wrong? What can I change to progress? We never consciously challenge our actions. We carry on, oblivious, regardless of the consequences. People imprisoned in this mindset adhere to beliefs that breed stasis. Life is already mapped out. That's just the way it is. What a defeatist attitude. Wake up. Life is not preordained. It's just the way it is because you haven't changed anything in years. Such people are effects, not causes. They are constantly buffeted about by the whims of other people. They are reactors, not creators. Yet, to change a reactor into a creator, we just have to put see first. If we see first the unconscious patterns which drive our repetitive behavior before acting on them, we resume conscious control of our lives. Behaviors indicative of reactor mode are sulking, blaming, seeking, approval, condemning, insulting, bad-mouthing, adopting victim mentality, seeking vengeance, calculating your responses to suit the company you're in, agreeing with the majority just to fit in, unhealthy competitiveness, bullying, and jealousy. Every time you revert to one of these effects, let an alarm sound off in your mind and bring your attention to the fact that you're giving your power away. To live consciously, we must heighten our awareness and catch ourselves in the process of reacting. Every time we interrupt a conditioned response, we break a shackle that binds us and move one step closer to our true potential. Heightening our awareness can be aided by reverting to step 3 and becoming aware of the covert operations of our filtering systems. Instead of responding robotically and slipping back into somnambulism, stop, stall, think, observe, and proceed. Don't shrink from your feelings. Allow them to expand. Observe the sensations in your body and allow them to peak. Remember the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching. Should you want to contain something, you must deliberately let it expand. Should you want to weaken something, you must deliberately let it grow strong. In not resisting negative feelings, you weaken and disperse them. In fighting them, you strengthen them. When your feelings have dissolved, revert to step 4 and ask your indwelling divinity for the correct response to the situation. Remember, every time you interrupt a negative pattern of behavior, you dissolve the neural networks which support it. Consequently, you initiate the following 4 stages of transformation. The 4 stages of competence. Starting from the bottom rung of the ladder to the top, it starts with unconscious incompetence, then conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and finally at the top of the ladder, unconscious competence. Unconscious incompetence. When operating at the level of unconscious incompetence, we are totally unaware of our shortcomings. We operate in a somnambulistic state, sleepwalking through life, totally oblivious to the underlying mechanisms that wreak havoc in our lives. Conscious incompetence. On reaching stage 2, our awareness has heightened. We've identified the underlying reasons as to why our lives aren't working. But we still haven't developed new strategies to implement the needed change. For example, we are still incompetent. Conscious competence. At stage 3, we have not only identified the reasons why we act in preordained ways, we have devised and implemented new strategies to change our behavior. At present, however, we have to exert conscious effort in executing the new behavior. It does not come easy. it requires a lot of energy and conscious thought. Unconscious incompetence. On reaching the final stage, we have practiced the new strategies to such an extent that they are now second nature. Each time we are faced with the old trigger, our new way of responding kicks in, without any conscious deliberation. When this occurs, we have transformed a negative habit into an extremely positive one. The 4 stages of competence can be used to measure the degree of progress in any troublesome area of your life. Let's look at an example. Example: every time John faced a problem, he drank to destruction. This bizarre behavior continued for many years and often led to him being locked up. He was oblivious to the reasons why he succumbed to his destructive tendencies. Unconscious incompetence. After reviewing the situation with a counselor, he identified that the reason for his abusive drinking was to obliterate his problems. Now he's developed awareness of the catalyst, but his behavior had not changed. He still drank to destruction whenever confronted with a problem. Conscious incompetence. Through the Alcoholic to Alchemist 12-step philosophy for optimal living, he finally accepted that alcohol did not provide an escape route from his problems. As a consequence, he refrained from drinking. Initially, it wasn't easy. He had to exert conscious effort in implementing his new strategy, conscious competence. Persistence prevailed, bringing gradual improvement. After John repeatedly refused to drink his problems away and set about solving them, his desire to drink diminished. Subsequently, abstinence became second nature. On encountering a problem, rather than seeing it as an obstacle, he saw it as an opportunity to evolve. After examining a problem from different points of view, considering his options, and consulting his indwelling divinity, he took great delight in solving the problem. This entire process was carried out without any conscious deliberation, i.e., it had been habituated. Unconscious competence. Live life. Don't let life live you. Part B. Discernment. To further heighten your awareness and foster the attributes of serenity, acceptance, courage, and wisdom, refer to the words of the following prayer. I ask my indwelling divinity to grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Recite this prayer frequently. Commit it to memory. Whenever you're faced with an ambiguous or threatening situation, one that fills you with confusion or fear, contemplate the words, slip into a serene state of mind, and deduce whether you have control over the situation or not. If the answer is no, then ask for the serenity to simply accept it. Why fret over something you cannot change? Equanimity of mind is maintained in simple acceptance. If the answer is yes, but you find yourself apprehensive to take action, then ask for courage. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to act despite fear. If you are unable to ascertain whether you have control or not, ask for clarity. Again, use step 4 and hand the situation over to your indwelling divinity. This way, you are certain of attaining the wisdom to discern the right course of action. Part C. Escaping into the magic. The final part of Step 5 encourages you to go into the magical kingdom of your mind and ponder the limitless possibilities available to you. Living life consciously involves choosing what you desire and manifesting it. Your mind is a vast emporium of potential. 60,000 thoughts traverse it every single day, and any one of them has the capacity to take you on an incredible journey. Select your thoughts carefully. Discard the negative and harness the inspirational. When you have chosen an inspirational idea, incubated in the embryo of your imagination. Feed it with concentration and allow it to become alive in your mind. Enlarge the internal pictures and turn up the sounds until the experience becomes lifelike. Immerse yourself in the scene. Feel the wonderful feelings evoked. Watch the scenario grow and grow until it is finally birthed into reality. And don't hold back. Remember, the greater danger for most of us lies not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting our aim too low and achieving our mark. Michelangelo. Set your bar as high as possible and live life in the knowledge that you are capable of clearing it, with room to spare. To live life consciously is to know no limits. Your imagination is the gateway to cosmic consciousness. Therefore, it is your greatest source of inspiration. Whenever you enter the realm of your imagination, you become a conduit for the universal mind and activate the genius within. As a result, the chemicals released into your body will evoke feelings of elation and bliss, and they are free of charge, with no adverse side effects. Escape into the creative dominion of your imagination every day. Make it a habit. As your agreement with reality changes, you will actualize a life beyond your wildest dreams. Step 6. Develop and sustain self-love through regular communion with your inner child. In every real man, a child is hidden that wants to play. Friedrich Nietzsche. The inner child is a concept used in psychology to denote the childlike aspect to our psyche, a subpersonality embodying the residual effects of childhood. Alcoholism and the symptoms that accompany it, depression, strained relationships, severe mood swings, emptiness, and low self-esteem often arise as a result of neglecting our inner child. The adverse effects of deep-rooted childhood experiences lay dormant in our psyche until triggered by current stimuli. When ignited, they evoke strong, irrational responses that knock us off balance. Afterwards, we often exclaim, "I don't know what came over me then. I'm not myself today." Or, "I was like a man possessed." These spontaneous, irrational outbursts are often indicative of a wounded inner child rebelling. The powerful practice of inner child therapy can eradicate the underlying issues that give rise to these eruptions and promote harmony in our relationships. Like a forgotten fire, a childhood can always flare up again within us. Gaston Bachelard. The inner child is the intrinsic embodiment of all our fears, worries, anxieties, and guilt. It is our epicenter of sensitivity. Vulnerability and oversensitivity are signs that our inner child feels threatened and requires our attention. Ignoring these pleas leads to fragmentation and an underlying sense of disassociation. We feel somewhat distant and detached. But when we listen and act upon these pleas, our lives are transformed in miraculous ways. The feelings of our inner child are not contrived or distorted. They are authentic and need to be acknowledged. Suppressing these feelings puts a constant drain on our vital resources and gives rise to depletion and depression. More importantly, detaching from this authentic source of emotion is a way to become lost, confused, and totally out of touch with ourselves. Inner child therapy helps us defuse the explosive source of our destructive tendencies. The unconscious mind presents unresolved issues for resolution via the inner child complex. This can be a highly emotional and disruptive experience, but do not shy away from it. It is a much-needed positive development. Remember, our childhood relationships are not dead and buried. They are buried alive, active in our unconscious. We cannot process and release them until they surface, and turbulent emotions are often indicative of them surfacing. So, embrace this turbulence and acknowledge that it is your authentic self trying to break through your rigid defense systems. The effects of internalized relationships are so important that there is a whole strand of psychology, object relations theory, dedicated to them. During childhood, we internalize versions of significant people in our lives: parents, peers, teachers, siblings, and clergymen, etc., etc. Object relations theory refers to these introjects as objects. The term object relations, therefore, refers to the relationships between these internal representations of real people and our inner child. Objects, internalized representations of significant people, parents, teachers, siblings, relations with the inner child. The term transference is used to describe the process of reenacting these internal relationships with real people in our lives currently. Our internalized relationships are mirrored in the external world via this mechanism. Issues we had with people in our past are transferred to people in our lives today, and our problems perpetuate. As this is an unconscious phenomenon, it often goes unrecognized and causes mayhem. Let's clarify the process with an example. Example: Josie's transference. Josie was beaten by her violent father as a child. Subsequently, she'd chosen partners who also administered violent beatings. A pattern emerged whereby Josie would end one violent relationship and enter another. When she came for therapy, I explained to her that we internalize versions of significant people in our lives, and the relationships we had with them are ongoing in our unconscious mind. The internal relationship between her and her father was being reenacted externally. She chose partners of a violent disposition in order to solve the issue she had with her father. But she didn't know it because it was all happening unconsciously. In effect, she was giving her real-life partners the role of her father. However, trying to resolve the issue she had with her father via her current partners simply didn't work. What she needed to do was work through the catalyst relationship, i.e., the one with her father. After processing and releasing the issue she had with her father in therapy, the destructive pattern of choosing violent partners magically disappeared. She no longer had an unconscious need to resolve issues involving violent men. This example shows that the content of our psyche is often reflected externally. When we harbor dysfunctional relationships within, we tend to attract dysfunctional relationships without. Listening to the anguish of our inner child is imperative if we want to eradicate this destructive phenomenon. The importance of childhood experience on our psychological development is further emphasized in attachment theory. See page 311. Through longitudinal studies, John Bowlby et al. Found that the quality of our early relationships shaped our capacity to enter into successful relationships throughout the rest of our lives. They found that children who had caregivers who responded to their needs and acted as a secure base from which they could explore their surroundings were able to successfully integrate and form intimate relationships throughout the rest of their lives. Having received love and affection in their formative months, these children developed an internal representation of themselves as being worthy of love and affection. Consequently, they developed self-worth and self-esteem. Conversely, children who didn't have a secure base found it difficult to integrate. Having not received love and affection as infants, they formed an internal representation of themselves as being unworthy, and so developed low self-esteem. So, undoubtedly, the effects of childhood influence on our psychological development are immense. The nature of our experiences in our formative years sets a template for the rest of our life. But what if we didn't have a good childhood? Are we doomed? I hear you cry. The answer is a resounding no. Your primary caregivers, parents, foster parents, or whoever cared for you in childhood may not have acquired the necessary skills to administer love and affection. But you do have such a person in your life now. You. The child within never ages. Therefore, with the help of the nurturing aspect of yourself, it is never too late to have a happy childhood. Remember, as within, so without. As you develop a loving relationship between your inner child and your inner parent, the effects will be far-reaching and reflected externally. Your ability to form intimate, meaningful relationships will be greatly enhanced as your self-esteem, self-respect, and self-love begins to soar. 3 important points to note. If your primary caregiver did not possess the necessary attributes to administer love and affection, do not interpret it as a lack of love. This is very rarely the case. Their disposition is often a legacy from their own upbringing. They feel the love but find it difficult to express. If you had a particularly difficult childhood, I would thoroughly recommend that you carry out the following exercises with the aid of a trained professional. Ideally, one of our licensed therapists. See www.alc2alc.com. As these exercises can be highly emotional, a period of approximately 6 months sobriety is recommended before you attempt them. Inner child exercises. Before being buried beneath layer upon layer of conditioning, our inner children were playful, spontaneous, creative, and intuitive. The following exercises are designed to uncover that spring of vitality and let it embellish our lives once again. Exercise 1. A dialogue between your inner child and inner parent. Note, this exercise is greatly enhanced if you have a childhood photograph of yourself to which you can relate throughout. Whenever you are feeling upset, sit down and let your inner child relay its feelings to you. With your non-dominant hand, allow your inner child to transcribe its feelings onto paper. Don't edit the words to make them appear more adult-like. Write them down exactly how they are expressed. Now, allow your inner parent to come to the fore and contemplate the written requests of your inner child. Allow any evoked emotion to arise and expand. Do not judge the emotion, good, bad, right, wrong, just allow it to be, and observe these sensations in your body. Still in parent mode, with your dominant hand, write down a response to your inner child. Look at the child's photograph. Really impress upon them how much you care, how much you love them. Tell them exactly how you are going to fulfill their requests. Respond with as much love and encouragement as you can possibly muster. This is an excellent exercise to do whenever you are feeling discontented or confused. It is often at these times that your inner child is feeling ignored or criticized. The benefits are invaluable. Equanimity is attained by countering the negative feelings of the inner child with the loving parental part of your psyche. The more you activate the nurturing part of your psyche, the more self-esteem and self-love you generate. As your self-reliance grows, your neediness will diminish and reduce the demands you place on others. Emotionally nourishing yourself in this way will also enable you to give freely to others and greatly enhance your relationships. Exercise 2. Inner Child Meditation. Note, it helps to either record this meditation, leaving pauses at appropriate times to assimilate and process pertinent information, or have someone read it to you. Alternatively, there is a recording on our website. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed. Relax and concentrate on your breath. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your breath. Notice how this is reflected in the rise and fall of your stomach as it inflates and deflates. As you breathe out, let go of any tension, anxiety, and stress. As you breathe in, inhale a sense of lightness and peace. Repeat this procedure for 5 minutes. In, out. Allow yourself to attune to the rhythm and flow of your breath. Become one with it. Slip into the space between your thoughts and sink into a beautiful deep state of relaxation. Now, allow the following scene to come to mind. You are in a ward of a maternity hospital. A nurse passes you a beautiful newborn baby. Embrace the child and look deeply into its sparkling eyes. Feel the child's warmth as you cradle them. Rock them gently back and forth. Notice how their eyes are filled with wonderment and they're eager to embrace the adventure of life. This infant is special, extremely special. Become aware of this specialness. The child's eyes emanate a deep need for nurturing love. Look into their clear, sparkling eyes and vow to fulfill this need. Whisper into the baby's ear, "I love you." Repeat this phrase over and over again. I love you. I love you. I love you. This child is a bundle of pure goodness, a reflection of the pure goodness within you. You are pure goodness. Feel this goodness building up within you. Now, let it pervade every corner of your being. Look deeply into the baby's eyes and see this goodness shining back at you. Allow it to expand. Feel the goodness within you multiply 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Feel yourself becoming a beacon of love, an emanation of goodness that illuminates all you come in contact with. Notice how people respond to you as you emit this light. It brings out the best in them. They smile and are totally at ease with you. On noticing this, your self-worth heightens, rising, rising, rising. Feel your worthiness expand and know that you are deserved of the best life has to offer. Become aware that the bundle of joy you cradle in your arms harbors a longing to bestow a special gift onto the world, a treasure they hold in their heart, their life's purpose. This tiny bundle of love is a genius in one particular area. Their greatest joy will be to give this gift to their earthly brothers and sisters. Tell the child you will support and encourage them in their quest to fulfill their purpose. You will help them find that which they love to do and immerse them in it. Now, let the years elapse and notice how the child has blossomed into a joyous, creative infant. Notice how they play freely, enjoying the present moment to the full. Play with them. Now, join in the fun. Let go of any inhibitions and become that fun-loving child. Let the scene expand in your mind. Make the colors brighter and more vivid. Turn up the sound. Immerse yourself in the scene. Feel those glorious feelings irreversing your being. Bathe yourself in the energy of playfulness. Allow yourself to be cleansed and purified by it. Remind yourself that life is not a game to win. It is a game to play. Allow yourself the luxury of playing frequently and laugh at the challenges life beholds. Let the years progress once again. The child is now a teenager. Listen to their values. Ask them what they value most. Listen to their answers intently. Make it obvious how much you support their aspirations. What is it they need? Love, affection, creative license, meaningful relationships, abundance, recognition, success, or affluence. Make a mental note of their requests and write them down straight after this session. Remember, it is the child in man that is the source of his uniqueness and creativeness, and the playground is the optimal milieu for the unfolding of his capacities and talents. Eric Hoffer. Life's playground is the optimal environment for the unfolding of the child's capacities and talents. Look at the teenager again and feel a great sense of pride at the way they're progressing. Note how their progress is down to the love and nurturance you have bestowed on them. Every child has an innate need to be loved and cared for, and you have made an excellent job of fulfilling this primary need. Look at the youth again. For a brief instance, you thought you saw yourself. Look again. You did see yourself. You are observing a long-lost part of yourself. Welcome them back. They have now come home. They extend their arms towards you. You look deeply into their eyes, holding your gaze for what seems a lifetime. You extend your arms towards them. You slowly move towards each other and embrace lovingly. As you do, you blend into one and become imbued with the sense of wholeness. The child has took their rightful place within you. Once again, from this moment forth, vow to commune with them on a daily basis. Ask them what they want or need. Make sure to grant them their wishes. As you do, watch them thrive. Watch them evolve into a wonderful human being, one who will make a difference in this world. Allow the scene to dissolve now. Call your awareness back behind the windows of your eyes. So you are centered in your body. Feel the gentle pull of gravity on your shoulders and your feet firmly against the floor. In your own time, open your eyes and familiarize yourself with the surroundings. On completion of this meditation, write down the wants and needs of your inner child and vow to honor them. Step 7. Make an inventory of all the kind and caring acts you've carried out throughout the course of your life, and/or make an inventory of all the future kind and caring acts you intend to carry out. As a result of the transgressions we carried out whilst inebriated, most of us developed a propensity to treat ourselves with disdain. Being inherently decent, moral, and caring human beings, we find it difficult to accept the wrongdoings we carried out whilst intoxicated and become intent on self-punishment. Step 6 began the process of reverse engineering these negative strategies. By nurturing the child within, we develop an internal representation of ourselves as being worthy of love and affection. Consequently, our self-love and self-esteem rise. Step 7 is a logical progression from inner child work in that it is designed to sustain and heighten our self-love and esteem. By reviewing all the good deeds we've performed throughout life, we cultivate an attitude of forgiveness and create a space for love to enter. We are essentially good people who have forgotten our positive attributes. Step 7 rekindles our positive memories and gives rise to a shift in consciousness, which fosters an extremely positive self-perception. Exercise. Take a paper and pen and list all the kind and helpful acts you've carried out throughout life. Make a thorough inventory, listing as many as possible. Next to each inventory item, make a note of the attributes displayed: love, thoughtfulness, empathy, kindness, consideration, etc. When it's complete, sit down in a quiet place and contemplate each one. Allow any associated emotions to arise and expand. Immerse yourself in that wonderful feeling of pride that emerges as a result of your accomplishments. Feel your self-worth growing by the minute. Harness that feeling and let it grow. 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Shower your inner child with compliments for all the good work they have carried out throughout life. Watch their ever-widening smile as they receive the praise they've always longed for. When you have finished, set your sights on the future. Make a list of all the forthcoming kind acts you intend to carry out. Be very specific. To whom do you intend to be kind? In what ways will your kindness manifest? How will your thoughtfulness enhance the recipient's life? Again, find a quiet place and contemplate each one. Let the scenarios expand in your mind. until you truly acknowledge the inherent goodness within you. Note, if you have difficulty in remembering the good you have carried out in the past, go straight to the second part of the exercise and list all the good you intend to do. Give this exercise the time it deserves. Repeat it periodically. The more you dwell on the goodness within you, the more you will deflect the wrath of sobriety's saboteurs. Consequently, you will increase your capacity for self-love and attract the love of others. Step 8. Forgive and be free. The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on, nor all the piety nor wit shall lure it back to half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it. Omar Khayyam, 1048 to 1122. The wise words of philosopher, astronomer, and poet Omar Khayyam remind us of the futility of holding past events responsible for our current circumstances. The moving finger, in this context, may be seen as us. As time elapses and events unfold, we inevitably make mistakes and suffer injustices. But no amount of blame or guilt can turn back the passage of time in order to rectify them. One of life's greatest myths is the belief that the past is responsible for our present misfortunes. This is a defeatist's attitude. Without doubt, the past does influence our psychological development. But as we gain awareness and insight into ourselves, we come to realize that the past cannot be credited for our present shortcomings without our consent. Granted, we can choose to bond ourselves to the wounds and injustices of the past and allow bitterness and resentment to erode our minds and destroy our lives. Or we can choose to turn our anger inwardly, severely berate ourselves for past transgressions, and sink into a morass of melancholy. Either way, guilt, bitterness, or resentment will surely lead to our demise. There is another option available, however. We can choose to forgive. By forgiving ourselves and others, we free up a vast amount of psychic space for inspiration, creativity, love, joy, and life's infinite possibilities to enter. The formula for the successful implementation of this process is written below. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. These words of the Lord's Prayer are not some pious idealism, devised to produce martyrs and angels. They are designed to set you free. Forgiveness and freedom are synonymous. When we blame negative childhood experience, relationship problems, financial hardship, bereavement, or some other calamity for our present misfortunes, we surrender our power to circumstances beyond our control. Subsequently, our minds become infested with negative thoughts, which give rise to life-denying chemicals in our bodies that induce bad feeling, depression, fragmentation, lethargy, irritability, paranoia, and bitterness. Consequently, we drink and end up back in the abreactive abyss. This whole destructive process is initiated by our refusal to let go of old wounds. But what we don't realize is that by hanging on to past pain, we are continuously wounding ourselves. Resentment is a covert method of self-punishment. The primary objective of forgiving others is to set yourself free. Forgiveness is not an altruistic act. It is self-serving. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending that no wrong occurred. On the contrary, it means that there was wrong. Else, there would be nothing to forgive. Yet, in order to free ourselves, we stop feeling angry or resentful towards the person. In extreme cases, such as abuse, where forgiveness is desirable but extremely difficult, there is an effective process that facilitates release. A process that transports you from hatred to freedom. Steve, my friend whose story appears at the beginning of the book, initially found it impossible to forgive his foster father for the sexual abuse he suffered as a child, with good reason. You might say, but let's remember that resentment is self-effacing. As we worked through his issues, I became aware that love and hatred were fused together, as often happens in these cases. Survivors of sexual abuse are typically reluctant to declare their love for their perpetrator, as they think they will be labeled weird. How can you love someone after he did that to you? After reassuring him that it was understandable and permissible to love his foster father, I recommended that he separate his father's disturbing actions from the person as a whole. This enables a client to see the many different facets of a person, instead of just their negative aspects. On doing this, Steve began to recognize the positive attributes of his foster father and understood why he'd loved him as well as hated him. At this point, I felt a shift in Steve's energy. He had mellowed somewhat. His hatred had transformed into anger. For the next few weeks, we worked on processing his anger, during which time it emerged that his father had also been sexually abused as a child, as is often the case with perpetrators of sexual abuse. By acknowledging the full impact of his foster father's childhood experience, another shift took place. Steve's anger transposed into understanding and compassion. A year later, after continuous therapy, Steve visited his foster father's grave and forgave him. The experience is best described in his own words. I immediately felt a weight had been lifted off my shoulders and knew that I could now move forward. The process of shifting from hatred to freedom outlined above will work for almost any problem. Not many people are able to make the shift in one quantum leap. Many don't even get as far as forgiveness. But once they attain a degree of understanding, their dilemma has a tendency to dissipate. The logical progression through hatred, anger, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, and finally freedom normally transpires as a result of working with a competent therapist or an excellent mentor. If you recognize a need to undergo this process, see our website for a list of approved therapists and mentors at www.alc2alc.com. Self-forgiveness. The benefits of understanding and forgiving others will only be felt if we are prepared to forgive ourselves too. Many people who abuse alcohol are so intent on self-recrimination that they feel that turmoil and hardship is all they deserve. Plagued with guilt, they become obsessed with judging themselves bad and unworthy, and sentencing themselves to a life of misery. If you identify with this pattern of self-destruction, as I know many of you do, wake up. Recognize it as the work of the sobriety saboteurs. Their appearances always presents an opportunity for growth. The lesson this time is, learn to love yourself. Guilt transpires from self-disdain, the antidote to which is self-love. Self-disdain and self-love are totally incompatible. At this time, it may be worth reminding yourself of those famous words of Jesus. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When we were inebriated, we didn't know what we were doing either. We didn't consciously set out to harm anyone. The harm we caused was usually a byproduct of our inactive conscious and suspended memory giving rise to Dr. Jekyll becoming Mr. Hyde. For blame and punishment to be appropriate, there has to be conscious intent to violate another person in some way. And this is very rarely the case with alcoholism. So heed the words of Jesus and forgive yourself for your indiscretions. Instead of whipping yourself and becoming an unproductive member of society laden with guilt, use your past errors as feedback to improve the quality of your life in the future. Making amends. This step would be incomplete without addressing the issue of making amends. Making amends to people for past transgressions is appropriate when you feel your relationship with them has been strained. If you feel it necessary and appropriate to make direct amends, then do so. It is a great house cleaning exercise that fosters humility. In some cases, you may like to make direct amends, but the thought of doing so fills you with reticence and uncertainty. Step 9 offers the perfect solution, one that will see many people benefit from your willingness to evolve into a respected, productive human being. Step 9. Identify your life's purpose. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and go and do it, because the world needs people who have come alive. Howard Thurman. Step 1 to 8 are primarily focused on house cleaning, clearing up residual negative energy from the past. Step 9 moves you into the present and urges you to find out what you love to do and share it with the world. Optimal living is contingent on you being fulfilled and joyous. Living on purpose is the best way of ensuring success. When we open to our inner guidance and flow with the current of divine intelligence which floods our being, our purpose is illuminated and our lives change forever. Your life's purpose doesn't have to be some monumental feat. It may simply be a series of small things carried out with much love. But one thing is for certain. It will fill you with inspiration, enthusiasm, and delight. Once you're on purpose, your life will change forever. The essence of this step can be summed up in the following statement. Love what you do, and do what you love. Your life's purpose is relayed through the language of the heart. So feel your way into it instead of thinking. Identify what excites and stimulates you. Identify what sets you alight inside. Maybe your purpose will reveal itself in a number of stages, as it did with me. But every stage will be inspiring and stimulating. I guarantee you. Your life's purpose is a desire of the universe waiting to manifest through you. I cannot think of a more befitting way to relay the joys of this step other than reiterating those magnificent words of Patanjali. When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. If you have difficulties in identifying your life's purpose, the following steps are designed to help. Life's purpose exercise. Take a pen and paper and answer the questions thoroughly. Give the exercise the time it deserves. 1. What do you thoroughly enjoy doing? Reflect on your life and identify times when you were passionate, fulfilled, and inspired. What were the stimuli? Who were you with? 2. What kind of people stimulate and inspire you? Who are your role models? What exactly is it about these people that you admire? Their outlook on life, their values, their determination. 3. If money was no object and you had all the time in the world, what would you do with your life? 4. What values are most important to you? Revert to the values elicitation exercise back in Chapter 19. 5. Revisit steps 1 to 4. Reflect on your answers and identify any common threads. 6. Complete the following statements with as many answers as possible. Write freely and spontaneously. My life purpose is. The purpose for which I'm on this planet is. The vision I hold for the world is. 7. Write a brief statement about your life's purpose. Notice how you feel when writing it. If you feel effervescent and alive, the chances are you have uncovered it. If not, repeat this exercise periodically. 8. Now, find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Play some inspirational background music, or simply immerse yourself in silence. Allow your mind to open and expand. Feel your ego and all its doubts and insecurities being consumed by your true essence, your indwelling divinity. Know that you are capable of achieving anything. Your true essence is the very same omnipotent intelligence which gave rise to all creation. You are creativity itself. Life is a field of infinite possibilities. Allow your mind to drift and locate the genius within. Ask the genius what unique gift it has for the world. Each of us is born with a duty embedded in our heart, our life's purpose. Let the genius within reveal this purpose. Make sure that when it is divulged, you feel passionate about it, awe-inspired. In silence, ask questions. Pause and feel the answers arising from the depths of your soul. 9. Finally, move heaven and earth to manifest it. The results will astound you. I promise. Making amends through our life's purpose. In Step 8, I discuss the importance of making amends for transgressions we carried out whilst intoxicated. Bestowing the gift of your life's purpose onto the world is a magnificent way of achieving this. Not only will your work benefit many people, but you will grow closer to God or the universal mind in the process. The practice of unifying with the source of all creation through our life's work is called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga. The Sanskrit word karma means to do or action. Yoga means union with God. So the practice of Karma Yoga is unifying with God through selfless action. Since all living things are God manifest, then Karma Yoga may be defined as the selfless use of our unique gift in service of the highest good of all we encounter. Rather than working simply for money or personal gain, a person practicing Karma Yoga has the well-being of others at heart. Through this service, they find union with God. Let me relay my current thoughts on the subject to you. As I write these words, I sit in solitude in the quiet ambience of the English Lake District. Although I'm alone, I am not lonely. I am intimately connected to the divine inspiration which dwells within me. I am a channel through which the universe can express itself. In silence, I commune with the divinity which occupies my body and realize the truth in the saying that sometimes silence has the loudest voice. As silent knowing is translated into the words which I impart to you, I am filled with passion and purpose. My enthusiasm levels are peaking because the God within is consuming my ego, and all negative interference is being expelled. I am at one. As I bestow my unique talents on the world, I strengthen my intimacy with God or the universe. I allow the dreams of God to be expressed through me. Summary of Phase 2. Allow your life to unfold from the facet of your being that knows the right response to every situation. Live life consciously. Love the child within. Frequently remind yourself of your goodness. Forgiveness is the key to freedom. Embrace your life's purpose. Phase 3. Maintaining the magic. Steps 10, 11, and 12. The final phase of this philosophy for optimal living is maintenance. Rather than being a chronological process with a beginning, middle, and end, this philosophy is ongoing. It is a way of life. To maintain and evolve your well-being, I suggest the following steps. Step 10. Daily meditation. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Blaise Pascal. It is true to say that all of humanity's problems stem from an inability to sit in silence. Our urgent need to advance and fill our minds with unimportant issues has taken away our ability to discern that which is truly meaningful. Only in silence does pure truth reveal itself. Only in stillness does clarity transpire. Only in quiet moments does our inner genius materialize. Withdrawing from the chaos of life to the quiet oasis of your mind is imperative to your well-being. Daily meditation not only prolongs life and radically improves psychological and physical health, but it also strengthens your connection to Source. Here are some of the major benefits of Step 10. Reduced stress. By detaching from the field of activity, thoughts, and actions, we become an impartial witness to life. From this disassociated perspective, worries and anxiety pale into insignificance. We observe them rather than own them. This practice radically reduces stress and promotes harmony and balance. Replenishment. Spending 20 minutes in a meditative state gives us the equivalent of 8 hours sleep. Clarity and concentration. Our ability to concentrate is affected by the constant chatter of our inner dialogue. Meditation promotes one-pointed awareness in our normal state of consciousness. Our thoughts are scattered and diffuse, which leads to confusion and irritability. In meditation, our awareness becomes laser-like, supremely concentrated on its object of focus. Focusing solely on the present moment clears our mind, increases productivity, improves our memory, and enables us to become effective decision-makers. Health benefits. Numerous studies have proved that meditation improves our health. For example, lower levels of stress and anxiety due to meditation diminish the probability of heart disease significantly. Mind and matter are inextricably linked. Emotional turmoil often translates into physical ailments. Meditation promotes equanimity of mind, which reflects in a vast improvement in physical health. Control your mind. Don't let your mind control you. Man has conquered some of the most difficult terrain: high mountains, the moon's surface, and the North Pole, to name but a few. But has he truly conquered his inner domain? How many people live life unconsciously, propelled by rigid conditioning? How often do we fall under the spell of social hypnosis? Meditation presents an opportunity for self-examination, a space in which we can review and challenge our thought processes and belief systems. This practice gives rise to the actualization of our true potential. Get out of your mind and into your senses. Being consumed by a chaotic mind often leads to anxiety, stress, insomnia, mood swings, and depression. One method of vacating a busy mind is to concentrate solely on your immediate surroundings. Look, listen, smell, taste, and feel the world around you. Concentrate supremely on the present moment and allow your senses to absorb the scenery. Meditation does not necessarily have to be an inert process. It can be achieved in a waking state. If possible, go to the country and practice raising your awareness using all your senses in tranquil surroundings. Happiness. Happiness is the goal of all goals. Whatever people do, the underlying objective is to attain happiness, and happiness is an intrinsic state. We are innately happy. It is our inner dialogue which detracts from this natural state and breeds discontentment. Meditation transports us from cognitive chaos to a spiritual sanctuary that exudes peace. The result is pure, unadulterated happiness and contentment. Creativity. When our chaotic thoughts abate and silence prevails, we tap into the infinite reservoir of intelligence responsible for all creation. Great thinkers and geniuses have made all their important discoveries in this state. Remember, creativity is not the process of regurgitating that which is already known. It's the birthing of new ideas. In the silence of non-thinking, the universe relays novel ideas. They arise spontaneously and set us alight inside. We experience the joy of becoming collaborators with God, universal mind, or whatever other term you prefer. Go into silence, discover your inner genius, and unlock your creative potential. Insight. During insight meditation, we transcend the mask of matter that shrouds the material world and gain first-hand experience of the true nature of reality. To relay this experience using words is impossible. So, I'll conclude this step with the following statement from the Tao Te Ching. Those who speak do not know, and those who know do not speak. Step 11. Continuing development. This step is comprised of the following 5 components. 1. Stay on purpose and continue to utilize our unique talents to serve the highest good of all we encounter. When you work, you are a flute through whose heart the whispering of the hours turns to music. To love life through labor is to be intimate with life's inmost secret. All work is empty, save when there is love. For work is love made visible. Kahlil Gibran. The message of this part is simple. Stay on purpose. Adhering to your ultimate mission in life is a sure way of sustaining joy, inspiration, strength, and meaning on a daily basis. The dark clouds of life come and go, but your purpose remains forever present like the clear blue skies above. Love what you do and do what you love. Dedicate your finest qualities to the good of humanity. To love humanity through our purpose is to be intimate with God. 2. Commune with your indwelling divinity on a daily basis. Throughout the course of each day, check in with your indwelling divinity. Become aware of the still presence that is the core of your being. Allow life to unfold from this wise witness within. When circumstances arise which knock you off balance, ask for the correct response to be revealed and act accordingly. 3. Frequently absorb inspirational literature with the objective of reprogramming your mind. Reading inspirational literature is one of the best ways to ensure continued success. Allocate at least 15 minutes every day to reading or listening to enlightening and inspirational information. Constantly replenish your mind with knowledge that will stoke the fire of passion within you. Knowledge that will imbue you with wisdom and bring about enlightenment. 4. Regularly transmit your intentions. Practice the following exercise 3 or 4 times a week. Exercise transmitting intentions. Sit comfortable in a quiet room. Hold whatever you desire in your hand. Energize your thoughts with your imagination. See, hear, feel, smell, and taste your desire. Act as if it's already actualized. Let the energy of success suffuse your being. Imagine concentric circles of intelligence pulsating outwardly from your mind, propagating your request throughout the universe. Double the intensity. Treble the intensity. Allow the intensity to increase 1,000-fold. Immerse yourself in the contents of your mind and hold that state for 15 minutes. Know that the universe is listening and responding. Your request is being transmitted through a web of intelligence in which everything is connected. Your answers will appear soon. Know with complete faith that you are sculpting pure consciousness into the circumstances of your future. Your mind is the womb of creation, giving birth to your requests. Now, release all attachment to the outcome and allow the universe to preside. 5. Continually affirm positive statements. Regularly nourish your mind with affirmations. Step 12. Having radically transformed our lives and actualized our optimal potential, we aspire to assist others to make the journey from alcoholic to alchemist. Now is your chance to shine. Throughout the world, alcoholism has reached pandemic levels. People are desperate for answers. Having experienced a radical shift in consciousness as a result of assimilating and practicing this 12-step philosophy for optimal living, you are now endowed with the psychological and spiritual knowledge with which to intervene. You have firsthand experience of the dilemma facing people who have succumbed to alcohol abuse. As a consequence, you are ideally placed to secure their trust and guide them out of the wilderness. Step 12 encourages you to become a burning candle, passing the